Five Star Weekly. Pineda's out. Who are some viable candidates for the job? Getting all that and more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, 5-Star fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And Atlanta United have finally made the move at the head coach position. And Gonzalo Pineda is out as the head coach. We, of course, did a couple of videos this week on it already, but we will talk in depth about not only some possible candidates, but also the news from the week. But before all that, let's review the Charlotte FC match very briefly, because we know, that was not something to write home about. It's ultimately the match that came before Pineda got fired, but it seems like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But before we get into all of that, let's give some major love to our Patreon level members and all you guys in the highest tier. You guys get the shout outs here. Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, Chris, you guys all are amazing. Thank you guys so much for the support week after week, month after month. But so into the match review. And unfortunately, Atlanta United dropped that match 3-2 at the Benz, the fifth straight loss at home. That just tastes weird coming out of my mouth saying that. And one win in 11 matches. I mean, that's just piss poor. And, it's the fact that we got to that many games is really what has been agitating for a lot of fans. Complacency with the mediocrity or worse has been just egregious. I mean, just something that never should have gotten to this point. The bleeding should have been stopped. But, there was a lot of trash talk between the two clubs on social media before the game. Us making fun of their mascot, them poking fun at our, cameo Twitter post. But throughout all of it, I mean, it just felt a little forced. I'm going to be honest. Like, we don't really have really much beef with Charlotte FC. It's really just, we're trying to make something happen. We're trying to make fetch happen. And it's just like, ultimately, you talk a bunch of trash and you can't back it up because, lately that's kind of been the case. And Charlotte are now in 5th because of this win against us, and we are in 13th. So, there's a time and place for some trash talk, and it was not before this match. Like, I understand why the the social media team is doing it, but, man, it just makes it really, really difficult on these fans and on everybody that supports, because, there's no level of it where we felt confident going in. I didn't. I mean, yes, we beat Inter Miami going in, but I think your feeling was that it probably was going to be a draw, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and so the it was basically we didn't really come out really that hot in a sense of like I think the first half looked decent, but it very quickly shifted towards Charlotte in the second half. And I mean, we were clinical outside the box against Inter Miami, but in this match, very much not the case. I mean, we were missing a lot of shots in front of goal. Saba had a couple shots, really 3 shots in the first half that 2 of them probably should have been put away, to be fair. But none such was the case. And I mean, as well, this unchanged 11 should have been enough. Should have been enough to to take care of Charlotte at home. But we just looked like a different squad. But it's because we're playing at home. it's a team that didn't want the ball. Charlotte was very much we played right into their hands to a lot of degrees, and with their new head coach, who's really taken them to some heights that I think they haven't really seen. It's I think very telling when you bring in, you show ambition and you bring in a coach that whether they overpaid for him or not, which I have a feeling they did. We won't really find out, I guess, how much it really was until probably at some point later. But it's like Thiago Motta captaining again. We had the three-man center back line with Gregerson, Williams, Abram. And it's just not enough. And basically their player Abada, he had himself a game, and it was very, very annoying because it felt like what Thiago Motta should have done. But for one reason or another, we haven't been optimizing him. And that second half, it's just like basically when they went up against us, it just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was very likely after that. Like we haven't been coming back from deficits very well. And yes, we were able to at least get some sort of a consolation with Silva's goal, but and both of the goals were to a level of, they're inside the box, but can we rely on these type of goals week after week? Absolutely not.
After we've seen Silva miss that shot like 9 out of 100, or like
9 out of 10 times.
Let's say, well, it's even worse than that. It's like 19 probably. Out of 20 times.
Yeah, probably. And he definitely, he put it away with aplomb this time, but it is. How many times has he skied that chance?
It's exactly what we saw with Saba. He, for whatever reason, was insanely clinical against Miami.
Right.
And you could see in this game, he was still feeling that, a bit of a hangover from that game, saying like, I'm still feeling myself. I still feel confident. I was banging him in. I'm going to try it again this game. You could tell the first at least 10 minutes, every time he got the ball, he selfishly put his head down and tried to just blast it in. Even when there was good passes he could have made to his teammates, he decided, you know what, I'm feeling it. I can get this team and put it on my back, and put this game away like I did against Miami. If I could do it against, I can do it against anyone. So right. I guess that's what kind of a high he was on, and unfortunately, same old Saba came back about, just a lot of shots off target, just slightly off, some of them maybe a little more than slightly, and just not having the right decision to make a pass or to be more dialed in. So it's unfortunate to see him not be able to kind of unlock something, dial in, and then continue that going forward, gaining some consistency. And it really feels like a flash in a pan.
Yeah. To be fair, he did assist for Almada's goal. But, I think it's it's like, basically one good play out of, several kind of misses.
When you're I get like it takes a little while for you to realize, okay, maybe this is not my game. I'm not dialed in, except for the assist, obviously. Like at that point, it already has hurt your team quite a bit because you potentially have squandered attacks that could have been a better result had you gotten that pass off or something instead of decide to try and shoot it. So the first 10 minutes or so was a bit squandered from attacks from Saba like that, and it was unfortunate to see because you were thinking, oh, he's really feeling it again. He might score, and if he does, this game can potentially look very different.
Yeah. And Almada's goal, left-footed, really well taken. But it's just the rest of the match. It's where Abada, like I mentioned, really just took the game by the scruff of the neck. And at home, you want to see Almada doing that. Goal aside, it's just a kind of symptom that was very much the case. And then these goals, Cohen. I mean, yeah, the second goal, that's the thing. That's another shot from distance at one of our goalkeepers, gets let in. The first goal, the VAR call, which, man, they're in England right now. They're voting, pretty much. Clubs are voting whether they want to keep VAR or not. And I think this is another instance of, the league kind of being too cheap. And just like, you get those watches that show and buzz if the ball goes over the line completely or not. And I don't know. I don't think this ball goes completely over the line, but it is what it is. It's annoying. It's one of these type of things that it's just par for the course with VAR, and it may have been a different story, but we also we kind of shat the bed in the second half. So we kind
for what it's worth, the instant replay guys agreed with us that it shouldn't have been a goal.
Yeah, and it is what it is. It's we underlying numbers. This is the case throughout Gonzalo Pineda's tenure. Yeah, we have the underlying numbers in the match, but we don't get the W. We don't get the 3 points, and us XG 2.1 to their 1.2. Possession 60-40, passing accuracy 88 to 80, and it's just larger part is just not good enough. 19 shots to their 10, 4 shots on target for both sides. It's just by all accounts we should have won this match, but we just don't find the ways to win it. We in fact find the ways to lose it, and whether there is a little bit of unluckiness from bad calls or not, you kind of want to see the team pretty much try to pretty much win these in spite of that.
And, resiliency, something we haven't seen in this team in a long time. I mean, it's exactly. Like psychological fragility. We talk about it a lot. It's very frustrating to see it creep up again. Yeah,
and so it was good to see.
And Stian went down with a freaking injury.
Exactly. And
again.
So hopefully it's not too bad. We still haven't heard kind of what the injury severity is, but we do have this international window to hopefully have him recover. But his hamstring, I don't know.
He wasn't getting called to Norway, right?
Yeah, he was not, and so
the one of their solid guys that should have been able to stay behind to help during this break. Of course, he's injured now, so we're even more deplorable.
Yeah, and with hamstring injuries, they do take some time to recover from, because depending on the kind of grade of the strain, if it is a strain, I mean, it's a kind of lingering type of injury that could be an issue. But hopefully it's not the case. It's not too bad, but it often you see this happen when players come back from injury and they start favoring certain things, and basically more injuries happen. And so that's why some players need to be wrapped up in cotton wool when they're returned, and basically kind of brought back slowly. But obviously we needed the results. We needed to bring him back in order to stop it, and we saw the underlying numbers there about Gregerson when he was playing for us. We conceded a lot fewer goals,
and then we broke our favorite toy.
Yep.
Again.
Exactly. Yep. And so, Atlanta United now 1-3-1 in the last 5, and like aforementioned, pretty much this was that type of match that's pretty much. The front office looked at themselves and decided it was time to make the move. But so we can wrap up this match. Any final thoughts on this match?
It was another example of a team bunkering and counterattacking and attacking us in transition, and us being completely exposed by it. It happens all the time. We're used to it now. And it's unfortunate that you can kind of set your clock to it. Granted, Charlotte's a good team. I don't expect necessarily a team like New England or Chicago to come in and the bends and do something like this. I don't think they can execute really anything. They're just wallowing right now. But like, when it comes to a decent team, they can absolutely steal 3 points at the Benz if they play that way, because that's the playbook on how to play against us. And for whatever reason, we don't try that unless we're playing against Miami, because I honestly think we probably tried. I mean, we saw that one quote about him in the locker room talking about, we need possession, control the ball, take care of the ball. It's just like, no. And then honestly, it's probably that Miami's just such a talented team that they didn't let us. So we had to naturally, sit back. Like, you just had no choice. So maybe, if that happens again, which I don't know many teams that will play us like that, all the time. So it's going to be rare to see that, but I would like to see that specifically against those types of teams more often, because it absolutely works. If it can work against 13th place Atlanta, with 13th place Atlanta against number 1 Miami, then yeah, it freaking works. We should use it more. But yeah, it's just so frustrating that we don't seem to have an answer for when teams bunker. We just still try and play our way, and we get smacked for it.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, we won't have a match at the Benz until June 15th against Houston Dynamo. And yeah, of course, the international break is now. So yeah, let's get into the news. And Atlanta United, aforementioned, in 13th place, right above Chicago and New England, who are having abysmal seasons.
We're the lowest in the South.
Yeah.
Why? And we use Kings of the South, we're the lowest team. Oh man, I hate it. I hate it.
Exactly. Like, there are no bragging rights when you basically can't take care of business at home, and us calling ourselves the Kings of the South, it's just, guys.
They have beat us back to back twice in the Benz.
Exactly.
Charlotte. It's unacceptable.
It's very unacceptable. They're like,
this is our house now. I'm like, God, I hate that.
Yeah. And so with that, as far as the rest of the East is looking, Inter Miami up top, Cincy next, NYCFC next, and New York Red Bulls and FC Charlotte, or Charlotte FC rather, round that top 5 out. So it definitely is a topsy-turvy kind of Eastern Conference at the moment. Columbus in 7th. I mean, it's definitely it's parity. I'll tell you that. That's what MLS is. But it's our job to try to fight that parity and pull the Seattle Sounders, the LAFCs of the world right now that have been able to kind of withstand kind of the MLS parity in general. But yes, so Gonzalo Pineda was dismissed. Rob Valentino will take over as the interim head coach effective immediately. And Garth Lagerwey, he mentioned that we made this decision in an effort to move the team in a new direction. And as we continue to evaluate all aspects of our sporting operation, Rob will have our full support to turn our season around in the second half. Basically, Diego De La Torre and Eugenio Villazon, assistant coaches, were let go. Goalkeeper coach Coran, he will remain in his current role. And there might be some assistant coaches that are hired in the interim to help. I would assume probably, maybe some of the academy coaches might be helping Valentino as well in training. But basically, it is where we talked about it in depth in our video in the live reactions the day it happened. So if you're listening only to the podcast, then hop over to our YouTube and check that out. We won't belabor the point, but obviously, I think Lagerwey, he did say moving in a new direction, but it also is addressing Carlos Bocanegra and maybe why he wasn't moved. He had some very interesting things to say about that, and I think that's very telling kind of how he feels about Bocanegra at the moment, is that he didn't want basically both moves to happen in before the transfer window, which is about to open up. And Bocanegra, he's basically isolating his variables. And so, if it's not Pineda. If it's not the players, then he obviously will be looking at the technical staff as well. And so, with that, he has mentioned that he will be spearheading the head coach search, and that he does hope that as far as the head coach that is hired, that there is an element of MLS experience a little bit, as well as man management, and of course being able to communicate effectively with them, both good news and bad news, and then of course eliciting the best performances from the best players, I think is he's saying a lot of the good things, what we want to hear, but also is super duper telling that Bocanegra doesn't seem like he's long for the job, but unless he does a huge 180 on all of that, which, I mean, how did you take that for Bocanegra? I mean, basically being a sitting duck has got to feel weird.
Yeah, it's got to feel weird. I mean, not having your name being specifically mentioned in the leadership team that is helping Garth find a coach. I mean, whether or not he's actually on that, I don't know. But when Doug asked him twice, he said, I'm going to talk around it, basically. I feel more confident that, Garth said he's taking this on personally himself and that he's leading the charge with this. Because I trust in him, I trust in his methods, so hopefully he can, bring us to the promised land with a solid coach hire. It's very possible, like you said, like we kind of said on the live show, that he's isolating his variables. He's slowly, surgically cutting off pieces that he has determined to be, potentially problematic. And so we're getting to, there's still an issue. Change players, still an issue. Change coach, we'll see if there's still an issue. And if there is, then change technical director. So, he's got to be kind of a little nervous about that. But, he's done an all right job, up until kind of recently. Like his last kind of big several windows, he's done a decent job. So we'll see, He has the potential to fix everything and make it all right. But if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, and there's no love lost for me if Bocanegra goes somewhere else. He's been here for a long time, done okay and done bad in different times, and I really don't care if we move on from him. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh no, please don't. So
right, because that's the thing. It's Bocanegra, he got a little bit of a leash, when the team started doing better, but I think he is just as culpable for the situation that we're in at the moment with the roster restrictions, the lack of staff that we had, data analysts and scouts and everything in between. But also, I think what's interesting, what Lagerwey said was basically he was asked if the players are on notice, and he mentioned that pretty much everybody's on notice. And I like that accountability. And hopefully that actually does hold true, where pretty much everybody, if they're underperforming, well then Arthur Blank, the consideration or the recommendations that they receive from Lagerwey, well, it should be from all angles. But
it's good. I don't want Atlanta United to be a cushy job anymore. I want it to be tough.
Exactly.
Like we want winners here, so that's what we want to see. That's good to hear.
Exactly, because he even kind of pointed that out, was that basically, it's pretty much in Arthur Blank land, and it's, in some way, it's kind of just like this magical job that you can, kind of float around and fail forward, and it's just. Yeah, it's been that way for far too long, and it's about time for the change.
Because as they say, we have the biggest fan base, so if we have the biggest fan base, we're making more money than everyone else, just regardless of how we do in the standings. So
exactly, and so that type of just complacency has been the frustrating part, and I think no doubt it trickles down to the players. Like it's just they have to be feeling like, oh yeah, it's like, we don't have to win this match. It's and that's
and
not,
if I don't win, who cares? Like this club was just born 2017.
right.
Like whatever, I'm just gonna move on to another team after this in the MLS ecosystem. If I can do that, or I don't know. It's too easy to recycle players in MLS because of the intra-league aspects, because it's all owned by the same, company entity, really. So, the nature of that by itself makes me suspicious about how players view, whether or not they really care about winning under one team versus another. I mean, of course they do care to, significant degrees. But is it like, one of the, like any example team in Europe or something, or South America? I don't think so.
Yeah, you felt it in the first 2 years and the third year as well, where basically the players on the pitch, they had this will to win, and it was insatiable. It was contagious, and the likes of players like LGP and Franco Escobar, like those type of players that just fought tooth and nail for everything, and you could see it within everything that they did. And when they lost, they did not seem happy. They, like, no one wanted to go and hit the golden spike in when we lost. So it definitely is something that with Lagerwey as well, saying that the lofty goals that they set for themselves, like finishing in the top 4, advancing in the Leagues Cup, winning the first playoff series, those goals haven't changed. So yeah, we will hold this team accountable for it, because basically we are way behind the 8 ball. And yeah, the whole talk about how possibly, because us at 14 points right now, 36 points, possibly at a 2 points per game clip, 52 points. I mean, yeah, it still could be, but the realistic part of that is that, if we could, I mean, it would just basically be, a great save into the season that Valentino would be able to be a part of. If not,
It'd be legendary.
Exactly. He would basically have to, be doing that at a rate that we haven't seen in quite some time. But
we'd be
also
winning away games left and right. Like that's insane.
Exactly. And I have my doubts, unfortunately, but I have my hopes. But it is, we'll see. But
I mean, it would be. I mean, like I said, we all believe Pineda probably was not getting the best out of the players. There, for whatever reason, or multiple reasons, things were just not going well with him at the helm. But to think that just changing, the manager is going to all of a sudden supercharge the team, I have a really hard time believing that. So I can't think Pineda was that bad that he was like holding us down to our like 10% potential or something. And now that he's gone, it would automatically see a burst up to like 80% or something. I don't believe that. That would be like extraordinary. So that's like, I don't know, like forcing some kind of insane like things at the training grounds or something on the players, like make them wear like weighted vests and everything when they're running around, like breaking their bodies and like hurting them in horrible ways. And then, oh, he's gone. We don't have to do that anymore. Now we can play like actual soccer players. Like, it's just, I don't see that at all.
That was more Hainsey, and that's why he was let go so quickly.
Yeah.
So it is that difference, I think, here for Pineda, is that, yes, he was unlucky. Yes, he did suffer a lot of injuries. The amount of times that we were actually able to play at least 9 of our starting level players, not as much. There weren't that many games. But it is, I think, some part of it is training related, is recovery related, is motivation related, and
we're supposed to be like one of the best teams of like medical science and our facilities and everything. And even imagine if we were like, I don't know, one of the more like the least affluent MLS team, whatever that happens to be, like the team that cares the least about those superfluous aspects of your, not superfluous, but like extra amenities of the club that you have, that like they're the lowest of the low. Imagine us being there, or this team, this configuration being there, and not having those things. Like half the team would be injured all throughout the season. Like it would be insane. So I mean, that is if our stuff really is that good, which I can't imagine why it wouldn't be.
Right. And so, you know, in a lot of senses, there are no excuses. And yeah, it is. Lagerwey did point out that you know, the last half season we actually had a pretty good injury record as far as relative to the rest of the league, and you know, I guess during kind of that half season, but it still is. I mean, it's just like over the time that Pineda has been at the helm, it's not a small sample size. It's over 100 games. Like, to have that many injuries, it's not luck at that point, really. Like, no. There's something going on. So, yeah, as far as that, yeah, we'll basically wrap up, you know, pretty much the Pineda era, and, you know, definitely wish him best as a person, as a coach. You know, he probably will get another job at some point, and
I fully expect it. He's a smart dude. I fully expect him getting another manager job. And if it's in MLS, I hate to see what the fan base will look like if we ever get out coached by him, which I think there's a chance of that.
Yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, people get motivated. And, you know, you saw Stephen Glass out coach us in a U.S. Open Cup match. So, you know, it is entirely possible. So, yeah. Pretty much moving on from that, Caleb Wiley, he's been called up to the pre-Olympic training camp, and yeah, he will join the U.S. from June 3rd to the 11th, and they'll play against Japan on June 11th. But yeah, as well, the top vote getters for the MLS All-Star Game, that's going to be played on July 24th. So far, anyway, yes. As of today, it's June 5th. On Wednesday, but Thiago Almada, he's third in the attacking mids vote getting. Caleb Wiley is fifth in the left back race. Brooks Lennon is fifth in the right back race, and yeah, old friend Miles Robinson is number one in the center back race. And so, yeah, you know, honestly, I don't think any of the players deserve it. But, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the fact Giaco's not up there, you know, that sucks. Like I agree that they don't really belong. Thiago, just from his pure talent alone, is the only reason why. It's definitely not from form, definitely not from his production lately. So, how long is that going to last, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, if he doesn't get voted in this sense, yeah, I don't think he's going to be brought in either. But so, you know, those that may or may not be going to the MLS All-Star Game, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you'll see any Atlanta United players. But yeah, moving on from that, Juan Pablo on Twitter, he tweeted out that
by the way, before we move on, would this be the first MLS game, All-Star game, that we did not have representation at, if that holds?
It might be. I don't know if that is actually true, but it very well might be, because I think we still had enough, you know, players that were performing in yesteryear, even when we were terrible. So,
yeah,
you know, but as far as Juan Pablo tweeted out that Racing Club, that they it might be feasible that they execute the purchase option of Santiago Sosa for $4 million, and that the head coach there is very happy with his performance and might be wanting to keep him permanently. And yeah, they have time to make the decision and won't rush. So it's just merely a rumor right now. But if it were, Santiago Sosa holding up one of our U22 spots, definitely was a player that's under Hainsey was pretty decent. Came in with a lot of high hopes. Unfortunately, his last match pretty much against Lionel Messi pretty much allowed him to stroll right into goal. So yeah, unfortunately, I think Sosa's time with Atlanta United is done. And if we get $4 million for a run, take it and run.
It's unsettling that there's a bit of a trend that the players that were under Pineda, having left our team, go on to have a bit of a resurgence with another team. So that's a little bit of a concern. Obviously, there are other variables at play that can be other reasons why that happens. And it's not just like, well, they're no longer in, Pineda's miasma, so they're fine now. It's not exactly like that. So, but it's still, in my mind, it's still a little you're just like, wow, okay. That's really, why is this guy cooking in another league and on another team now? And when he was here, he acted like he forgot how to play soccer. So, it's crazy.
It is to that, but it's also, I think, system-wise, too. We just kind of grew from him. There is an aspect of it that it's a very physical league here. And, in the Argentine league, it's a little bit more technical. And, I think he's that type of player that can, achieve that. But as well, kind of the defensive midfielder that splits the center backs, that type of play isn't really in vogue as much anymore. So he is kind of, at least more so in the Argentine league, I think it suits him a little bit better. So it does make sense. But yeah, moving on from that, more transfer rumors to a degree. Cruz Azul. So they apparently, at least according to Fabrizio Romano, have agreed on personal terms with Giorgos Giakoumakis, and apparently the club Cruz Azul is now close to completing a deal with Atlanta United. It's a $10 million bid revealed last week, and negotiating for installments, so being paid in installments. And it might be closer. Well, the contract apparently with Giakoumakis might be until June 2028, according to Cesar Luis Merlo. And Atlanta United has not responded to the offer of the $10 million, apparently. And but Cruz Azul remain optimistic that the transfer will be completed. I think it's hilarious if that actually is the case, that they just have not responded. It's basically like, okay, as you put it when we were chatting about it, they just left Cruz Azul on red, and which would be hilarious. But I think 10 million, even if it's in installments for 29-year-olds, almost 30-year-olds who has been injured a good bit / yellow card accumulation keeps him out of some matches. If you can get it, it might be good, but it is also, like we do need to have our DP striker in order to really get that 2 point per game clip as well. And there will be a bit of time that we will not have him have a DP striker if we do move him, unless we can get one in immediately, which, let's just be real, unlikely. But what are your thoughts on this possible rumor?
Get an extra little windfall. I mean, the idea for me would be to upgrade a bit. Giorgos is great for his price point. Honestly, I'm starting to think like it was a bit of a steal we got him for the price we did. So that was really good. That was good, business on our end. However, now if we get significant amount of profit off of that, why not use some of that to go out and get, someone with an even higher ability rating, someone who's a proven goal scorer who can really, put this league on notice. I mean, you see that happening in some of the other teams in this league, bringing strikers that are very expensive and very, known throughout the world as dangerous players, proven commodities. And I'm like, well, why can't we do that? So, hopefully that can, I know it's not a lot of money. It's not like it's really tipping the scale a lot, but perhaps we can, at the very least, if Giaco exists for the price he did, I'm sure there are players a lot like that around the world. And then perhaps at the next tier higher, and maybe we can look at that. So, yeah, right. I mean, I also have to say, obviously I have his jersey from Celtic. It will make me sad to see him go because I do like him as a person, as a player. His personality really shone through. Like his bravado, his willingness to take on, the number 7, to really light it up at the press conferences when he first arrived. Like, that's the kind of energy and persona we need at the tip of the spear. And so if we go out and get another player, they're gonna have to at least be able to fill that type of like bad boy mentality, that like Zlatan, Jose Martinez type of behavior that we all have come to know and love as, people see Atlanta as that kind of team. Taylor Twellman always wants a villain, right? And Atlanta always was poised to be that with Jose Martinez because he was so vicious and so, dream crushing of all the other teams in the league when he was on fire. When we get back to that, that would be amazing.
Indeed. So yeah, as far as Giakoumakis, with Lagerwey, he did pretty much mentioned during the press conference. He mentioned that, don't believe everything you hear on the internet, and that if the deal was finished, well, he probably would be the first person to know about it. So it is, unfortunately, not a done deal. Nothing's really transpired or been closer since then. So, we'll see. But
a better question really should have been, I'm not going to tell journalists how to do their job, but instead of saying because the way the questions are always framed is like, well, is the deal done? Has this been finished, finalized, sealed and delivered kind of stuff? And it's like, well, of course not yet. You would have heard about it then if it was. So, the question should be where in the process are you? Are you in initial talks? Are you in negotiation? Is it personal terms? Is it club terms? That would be a more poignant question that would kind of give us a better idea. Of course, club's probably not going to answer that because that shows their hand. But, it just, because at the end of the day, Garth can just hide behind the idea of you could say, all the things he said about, I think I would know if the deal was done. He could literally be 99% done the deal, but there's still 1% left to do. And he's still technically right. The deal's not done. And so he's like, it's just not. So, and then the next day he could just be like, all right, there's the last 1%, deal's done. And it's just like, okay, well,
right.
You know what we meant when we were asking. And then, but
of course,
that's just the
when
way
he's answering the question. And that's, right. I think every right of his to do that. And so from a journalistic standpoint versus a fan standpoint, I mean, I don't care what he says really in that sense, because if he's saying it for the best interest of Atlanta United, I'm game. It doesn't matter
exactly.
If he's revealing that it's done or not. If it gets us the best amount of money, if it gets us, the best negotiating position, that's what I care for. So, but yeah, as far as the next rumor, well, Diego Torbes, he mentioned that Franco Cristaldo, who is of Brazilian side Grêmio, he has drawn some interest from some other clubs. Apparently, two MLS clubs. One of them, Atlanta United.
MLS clubs.
Exactly, which is always interesting. We'll get into that. But and then America de Mexico, which Club America, that's the club there. And but Cristaldo apparently is very happy in Grêmio and aims to win big titles. His contract is with them until December of 2026. So, as far as this type of player, he's a really good finisher, great at set pieces. a number 10 type of player, 27 years old, 5'9". I mean, probably a replacement for Thiago Almada as far as the position, anyway, as a number 10. So it is interesting, but the whole 2 MLS clubs thing, I mean, I just call BS there.
The famous MLS club, America.
Yeah. Yeah. But one of them being LA United. I mean, they're not revealing the other one, but I think, that's how I read that. But it's if there are 2 MLS clubs, well, very often, with the discovery rights, there isn't that. So, maybe another club may be interested, but they just do not have the negotiating position to actually get them because...
Right, and that can trigger the... if the journalist, because like we've noticed, journalists don't understand outside of MLS, what that whole discovery right type stuff is oftentimes. And when you see, one club inquiring and it triggers the discovery rights of another, then the one that's in question, that's being, inquired of, sees both of these clubs now and goes, I guess both of them are interested.
And it's just implausible. And I think it's the connection probably stems from him being an Argentine player. So, obviously we're one of the biggest, shoppers of Argentine players in the market of yesteryear. So, it makes sense in that regard. But as far as a player that's, to have as a player to come in as a number 10, it could be a lot worse. I would welcome it, but it just depends on kind of how much we're going to be paying not only Gremio and also the player itself. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as the player, obviously you probably don't watch a ton of the Brasileiro, but as far as there being players already linked to us, in the stead of if Thiago Almada goes. Probably good news.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's like kind of the opposite of no news is good news when it comes to like when you want to sell a player. So I would, the more smoke that's coming up around the player, it kind of points to interest and movements being made. So hopefully that continues and something really tangible comes out of this. That's respectable for the club and for Thiago.
Right. And it's also that it's possibly it's a way for Thiago Almada to kind of up his game a little bit. However way he can get motivated. It's not that we want to move on from him, but we know that he ultimately wants to go to Europe. So, if we have some replacements kind of in mind already lined up, well then, maybe he will kind of light a fire underneath himself to have some better performances before he ultimately, and
if you don't do better, we'll replace you with this guy from Argentina and we're shipping you off to Toronto like we do with Ibarra. Don't think we won't do it.
But anyway, yeah, so moving on from that, LA 2, they fell to Crown Legacy, the Charlotte FC club. That's their secondary squad, and yeah, that's 1-0 on Friday night. So basically, yep, we did the double with 2 losses against Charlotte FC, and it's very, very annoying. But so yeah, they will play, the twos will play against Orlando City B on June 26th. But that gets us to the mailbag, and you guys send in these questions through IG story and also our Discord. So definitely join in there if you want your questions answered. So first question comes from, there's a lot to work through. A lot of you guys have very similar questions, and I don't want to completely inundate, ourselves here, but we'll go with kind of the layups first because, usually if you're a Patreon member, you get your questions answered first. But in lieu of that, since nobody that was a Patreon member asked any questions, we will go with, so let's see. As far as, first question, Baz, potential strikers to replace Gigi. What do you think?
I mean, yeah. Like before this episode, we looked at a list of potential openings. Players who are being opened into 2024. You got your Memphis Depay's. You got your Gabriel Barbosas. You got a couple of guys out there that are coming off of contracts that are below 15 million. They're not breaking the bank too much. A lot of these are in the 8 to 4 million range, from decent teams like Luka Jovic from AC Milan. There's a bunch on here. If you take a look on the transfer market list that they have, if you just filter for select end of contract dates in 2024 center forwards, you can see this list yourself. We could even provide it in the Discord if anyone's interested on it. But yeah, you can see a bunch on there. In terms of like who I would like, yeah, I mean, if we could go window shopping, I mean, Depay would be amazing, obviously, sitting at a market value of 12 million. And he's at age 30, with Atletico Madrid in La Liga. He's obviously, I remember watching him dismantle the United States men's national team for the Netherlands national team. It was disheartening. It would be great to see him working his powers for us. Let me see if there's any we have some MLS ones coming up due as well, like Duncan Maguire, pass. Jeremy Abobasi, pass, right? But like also Julian Carranza from Philadelphia. I mean, these are decent players. I don't know if I necessarily want them. I mean, my mind is kind of like, if in terms of a striker, I don't want like the other team's striker is like a villain to me, because they're always the ones like stabbing a knife into our heart. So seeing them come to us, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm probably not the only one who feels that way, but it is what it is.
Right.
And then interestingly enough, Joseph Martinez back on the market in 2024. So
yeah.
Anyway, do you have any on the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, they're all very, I think, storied players in a sense of like, you have these names that would be kind of nice, but obviously you have as well, Antoine Griezmann, who there's a lot of people that are hoping for in MLS as maybe that's kind of second striker that would be playing in some of the kind of similar positions as Thiago Almada, similar areas anyway. But I think somebody that would be really interesting is a Ben Yedder, because he is absolutely nuts in some degrees, where he's a player that, while he's 33 and coming from Ligue 1, like, he's not a spring chicken, but he's a person that just bangs in goals, and a ton of them. And so, that would be somebody. I think,
there's Rafa from Benfica coming off at 31 years of age. There's a second striker for you.
Yeah, and I don't know about him, but I think ultimately, you have to get somebody that's, is in that kind of ballpark of like Giorgos Giakoumakis, where,
not 18 million like that guy.
Yeah, but more in the range of, okay, there are a lot of goals that can come from him. He's proven to a degree. Maybe it's a down year. Maybe it's a player that's still in his prime, in the sense that he just needs more playing time, and I think you can find a lot of that not on the retread market, and not on the free agent market either. But I think we named a good number of them, and so obviously with Atlanta United, we shop in the likes of the Argentine League. We shop in the likes of Ligue 2. We shop in the likes of the Irish and Scottish leagues. It's really difficult.
Turkey.
And Turkey. It's really difficult to guess where we're always going to be bringing in players. It's rarely, at least from an MLS standpoint, where we go around the league and pick up the best players from other teams, which I feel like would be a decent way to kind of do things as well. Is I think that I'll save this argument for when we're talking about coaches, and that's coming up very, very soon. But yeah, next question comes from greatest Josh Cohen fan. With an upcoming game versus Houston Dynamo in 2 weeks, they are 6-4-6 with little players having international duties, and Rob Valentino having multiple key players, Schlich, Amada, and Saba mainly out. What are our expectations for him in the upcoming games?
I mean, again, like I kind of alluded to earlier in this episode, I don't have high expectations. I don't know why we should. I know you have the fabled, interim manager bump that Rob actually enjoyed last time.
4-2-2.
Coaching for us. Yeah, so that's a positive winning ratio, and that's great and all. But I just don't think that is sustainable at this point in time. It will be interesting to see what Rob, because Garth did say that he believes Rob will take the team in a different direction. So is it like he did last time with Rob kind of, taking the blinders off per se, like kind of opening up the engine, letting it do whatever it wants kind of thing, letting the players play? Maybe that'll be how he starts, and you could see a very different Land United. It really depends on what he ends up doing. It could be a lot of different things. So I'm excited for that. That'll be kind of cool and neat to see. But I don't know if it'll get the job done, especially against some difficult teams coming up. Houston can be a tricky opponent. So even if it's home, they can sneak goals in. So I'm not exactly super confident.
Yeah, and ultimately, Rob Valentino has a very uphill climb ahead of him, and without the best players, and also kind of it's this like what we learned from Valentino's tenure, at least the first time when he was an interim head coach, was that he allowed the players to play with that freedom, to play in their best positions. But I think when you don't have your best players, that's also going to be really difficult. So hopefully he can cater to the players that we have at hand and see how we can line up and tactically kind of figure out how to win those matches. So that's the most important part. Not worried about being stubborn with a certain way of playing. If we have to bunker, we bunker, and hit them on the counter, and prioritize getting points. But next question comes from Patty Ice _14. If you're Jurgen Klopp and ATL calls you, do you answer the phone?
I have no idea what the decorum is for that type of business transaction, that behavior. I don't know, because I'd imagine it has to do with a receptionist. The receptionist will be like, okay, X, Y, and Z wants to have an appointment with you. And then that guy can either just, Jurgen Klopp can either say yes or no to the receptionist, and then the receptionist calls him back and says, Mr. Klopp is busy, or something like that. So I don't think that Gonzo's just gonna hit him up directly and be like, yo, what's up? And it just says on his, I don't know if Klopp has a pager, that'd be hilarious, but no, like if he on his phone, it said, or like, sorry, not Gonzo, but Garth Lagerwey on the phone. Yeah, like that. I mean, I just don't think that that's how it works. So I would be hilarious if that's what it was, but no. I think it's more of a kind of a formal channel type of communication, and it's a little bit more bureaucratic than it's, I don't know, kind of sensationalistic in the other way. So
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, not to take it literally, obviously. I think yes, you answer the phone. Klopp calls you, yeah, absolutely. And in that regard, it would be a pipe dream.
Yeah. You call Klopp, does he answer? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think he answers. Like
right.
in a metaphorical sense, I don't think he responds with a yes, I would like to negotiate.
Yeah, I think he's probably trying to take some time off and really assess what he's going to do in his life, because the Liverpool job obviously took a lot out of him, and that's what it is. But yeah, as far as next question, well, let's get to it. I mean, because basically a lot of you guys asked, who are some potential manager targets, best realistic coach for our next manager. That's Just Ginge and Gabello Dell, and also as far as Vibe W Anthony, and also in our Discord, ATL guy with the firing of Gonzalo Pineda. Who are y'all's top 5 managers for the job? Also Submachine OP, who should take over for him? So yeah, we've obviously it's not our job to find the coaches, but the ones that kind of stick out for us, at least, obviously there's a lot of coaches that people have kind of, I guess, maybe put out there on the internet and in our Discord, but also on our social media, clamoring for these type of coaches. Obviously the Klopps and Pep Guardiolas of the world and all that, but the ones that are available as well: Frank Lampard, Graham Potter as well, Maurizio Pochettino, another one who just got let go by Chelsea. I mean, basically all 3 of those guys were just let go by Chelsea, so in a sense. And most of them have not gotten a job since then. Pochettino, obviously, that makes sense. He just got let go. But you also have, a whole lot of other coaches that, I mean, Max Allegri, that just got let go by Juventus. That would be a pipe dream. He does have some MLS experience, coaching the Juve side that played against us in Atlanta against the All-Star team. So that counts, right? But yeah.
And I think Joseph scored a penalty against them.
Yeah, exactly. So, he definitely is familiar in some senses. I think some other coaches that would be some pipe dreams, and I don't know if they would be a good fit, but Maurizio Sarri, obviously has been a Chelsea coach as well as Lazio. Definitely plays a good brand of football, as well as someone that just played Arsenal in the Champions League and was let go. FC Porto's or no longer, Sergio Conceição, definitely a coach that, I mean, he was getting more than 2 points a game. Obviously it is for a Porto side that is one of the best in Portugal, so there is that caveat. But he struck me as not only kind of a bastard, but also a coach that is very, very tactically aware and knows
bastard
how to
in
win.
a good way.
Yeah, bastard in good and bad ways. He did annoy me in that Champions League tie against Arsenal, but he did also impress me. But so he would be somebody at 49 years old, maybe would be a good fit. Steve Cooper also as well. That's previously was coaching for Nottingham Forest. Seems like a guy that's in the champions, not in the in the championship. Did do some things for Nottingham Forest, but ultimately, the message did kind of run dry a little bit. But also a very young coach, kind of in the mold of, say, what Charlotte FC did with Dean Smith, bringing him in. Kind of a coach that does know how to and has that pedigree. Definitely name yours, and then I definitely have some thoughts on kind of the job as a whole. But go ahead.
Yeah, looking at, I completely agree with Sergio Conceição shout. If of all the ones that I saw that was available, that was one that really stuck out to me, and I think that would probably be good. A good one to look into more deeply from the front office. Obviously, likelihood is a big gamble here. I mean, like, some of these suggestions from various Facebook groups and other things are kind of funny, so I wanted to include them. This is like the impossible tier, I'll call it. So that's like your Zidanes, your Xavi Hernandez's, your Pep Guardiola's. Who else was there? I mean, I kind of put Allegri in there a little bit too. Likely impossible, but I mean, hey. And then you have like kind of pretty good pedigree, but still high, like high tier, but not impossible. Let's see, there was like Fernando Diniz. This is a Brazilian manager, high level experiences in the Brazilian league with like Vasco da Gama, Fluminense, and he was recently the interim manager for Brazil. That's a pretty good resume.
Likened to a Brazilian Pep Guardiola as well, so interesting enough. But,
yeah.
Yep.
There's like, someone mentioned this, one of the things that I'm like, some people don't read all the statistics for some of these coaches. They said Jose Peckerman, and I'm like, bro, the guy's 74 years old. Yeah, he's got a good resume, but I just think at a certain point,
yeah, not to be ageist, but yeah, I think you want some energy on the sidelines. You want a guy that is going to ignite the team as well from being on the in the dugout. But yeah.
There's also Roberto De Zerbi, an Italian manager who was Brighton's manager. I'm gonna.
That's more pipe dream as well. I think. Yeah, definitely a really
Premier
sought
League
after
coach.
Yeah, that basically, he basically left on his own accord. It's not like he was fired. Like he very much can get probably a lot of jobs that he wants. Whatever next most attractive job there is, he's probably next up in line. Like he's that good.
In that ilk too, you have David Moyes, who's was the West Ham manager. So same kind of thing going on. In the Premier League.
Probably a little too pragmatic for my taste, but yeah.
Then we have like this name's bandied around a lot. Ronny Deila, this is a Norwegian manager who was recently fired from Club Brugge. So there's that. And there's also Valerian Ismail, who's formerly of Watford FC, with around like I kind of sorted like 1.7 and above points per game type manager, and he had 1.71, so that's pretty good.
It is also kind of the context of all that is important. Some of these clubs,
these are all cursory first level looks,
right,
like
for sure.
These are just names to then go, okay, maybe we look into these guys and then throw them out and then whittle it down to a hot list of like a couple. And then I leave this one for the last, which is on everyone's mind, Gallardo. Yeah. So, exactly. River Plate royalty ended off with in Saudi Arabia with Al Ittihad recently. So, I mean, his son, what is he? Yeah, son, right?
Yeah,
plays in the twos. So,
yep. So
he has, there's links here.
Exactly, and I think it is that it's the points per game in a vacuum can be a thing that we can look at, but it is ultimately you got to see the context of the leagues that they coach in. Usually, if we're looking at the best coaches, they're on the the best teams in the league, and usually you kind of have that caveat that you have to kind of place on it. But it is also we have to look at our place in the league right now. We're 13th in the league. And so basically any coach that looks at this project has to see the potential. It's not like when Tata Martino left and we had just won MLS Cup, when we could have gotten, anybody. We could have, not anybody, but we, can go after the best coaches. Frank de Boer, didn't have the best reputation after that a little bit before he came to us, but still revered at that time as, still a very good coach. And I think ultimately, for the Atlanta United job, yes, Garth Lagerwey did say that, he expects a very long list and a lot of people applying for it, but I don't know. I have my doubts to a degree that, we're ultimately that attractive of a job. We can probably throw money at it.
Yes, money is the key thing there. That's our strength.
Yeah.
That and the facilities and everything. I mean, and you're living in America. That's a big plus. I mean, it's just annoying because like we're not Miami, LA, New York, where all the Europeans and other people from around the world, they think like, oh, those are the places to live in the United States if you go live in the United States. Because Atlanta's always on that tier below. It really shouldn't be, but that is what it is.
Right. And so, unfortunately it is that case right now. And I think even more so with our current form. So yeah, we do have a lot of convincing to do. Hopefully there is a kind of chief negotiator. If it is Lagerwey that is that guy, hopefully so.
Hope so. I have faith in him. Outside of that, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who else is in the room to be someone that is convincing. I don't know if Boca would even be allowed in the room because I don't think he is probably that convincing. But
he doesn't have a good track record of making people happy either when it comes to currying favor with coaches. So
right, exactly. But I think with at least players being brought in, there is some degree of that somehow, I guess. But yeah,
I think he's more relatability with players because he was one.
Right.
So. Maybe.
But it is, a lot of coaches were players too, so it is should be, right? But yeah, so ultimately, to choose one, all right, to one that we should go after, Michael, who do you think?
Oh yeah, the guy I was talking about, Sergio Conceição. Yeah, I cannot
Sergio
speak
Conceição.
Portuguese.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a great shout. I'd probably go for, somebody like a Steve Cooper. Plays the football that is fairly attractive, but also is pragmatic. And then of course you have kind of pipe dreams. So
does he speak Spanish?
Not so much. He's Welsh. So, but it's a very diverse league in the Premier League. So it is still like he was able to deal with a lot of different cultures and all that. So it's. I feel like
our one of our modus operandi in the past with hiring coaches is some familiarity with the Spanish language. Even Frank de Boer had a mastery of Spanish, which was very impressive.
Right, but I think ultimately the amount of players that are on the team that are strictly only Spanish speaking is a lot lower now. I mean, we definitely we're shopping, in the South American market versus now we're shopping in kind of a little bit more global market. Maybe leaned a little bit more towards the French, and French people do speak English pretty well, so it is that. But you guys sent in a lot of questions. I don't know if we have time for all of it, but I think one of the questions that we maybe should get to is Brandon Orozco. Thoughts on Cohen?
I mean, his last game was a little rough for him. I don't think he had his best game. I think compared to the Miami game and his Open Cup performances, I thought this was a step down. It wasn't bad. It just definitely wasn't up to what I was expecting. His delivery, his service wasn't as good. I was sitting there thinking to myself like, Brad Guzan probably hits that pass, and that's a little upsetting to think about when you have your new keeper coming in. So wishing for the old days, right? I mean, obviously I wasn't doing that fully, but like there was some times where I saw some passes where Brad probably would have hit those. And then this just like the silly little stuff with the deflection going off of a player and then him trying to parry the ball at the last minute. It's just, again, like you said, bad luck seems to be what has happened with him in his 2 out of 3 games that he's played in MLS so far. And that's just, that kind of sucks. There's not much you can do about that. And it like just the VAR playing you hard too. That just sucks. So I still have faith that he's going to be a good shot stopper for us. And he will grow into a leader and a commander from the back. I hope that starts to show sooner rather than later, but I still think he's a little rough around the edges, and we saw a little bit of that against Charlotte. Hopefully, he can dial in a little bit more, and you see more like we saw from Miami's game.
Yeah, I definitely want to add that, it is also where, with his feet, I think that's where the difference between Brad Guzan and Josh Cohen is that Josh Cohen doesn't seem as confident on his feet, or with his feet, versus Brad Guzan, who I think is one of the better ball-playing goalkeepers in the league. He is definitely a lot calmer. He is definitely, receiving the ball and kind of at least starting the attack. He seems to know what he wants to do with it pretty quickly. Cohen working his way, I feel like, and seems to favor using his hands more so than using his feet. And so he would throw the ball out to the wings versus kicking it over there. And it does provide a different type of spin on the ball that some of the players weren't really used to. The ball would actually skip on them, and it went out at times when, if it was kicked, they could probably handle it a lot easier and then, start the attack. But, hopefully those are things.
Hopefully that's just familiarity. Yeah, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully those are things that he can work on. I saw decent shot-stopping ability, the second goal notwithstanding, and then the kind of, I guess, command of the box, I think, still remains to be seen. I think that's going to be very important because, the physicality of the league, I think, is something that, he will have to grow accustomed to. And, he's a player that, like Mike said, a little rough around the edges, and, we'll see eventually if he is, that heir apparent at the starting position to be the guy long term. So we'll see. But so that is the mailbag, and you guys send in those questions through IG Story and Discord. If you want your question answered at the top of the queue in the future, definitely join us on the Patreon, and you will definitely get your question answered. So, that pretty much does it for the episode, except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, we pretty much put it to you. Who do you want to see LA United go after as the head coach realistically? So let us know. Looking forward to what you have to say. So that is the episode there and there, guys. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's Michael. I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.